Selamat datang di Yo List Band. Hari ini gue kedatangan tamu yang lumayan spesial karena gue udah kenal lama. Dia adalah founder stand-up comedy di Indonesia yang asli. Hi Iman, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks. How are you?
Good, I'm very good. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm nobody. Sat next to you, I'm no one then.
Okay, good one.
My name is Ayman. I came to Indonesia first time in 1991.
Itu ngapain?
Before you were born.
Yeah. Yeah, a year before I was born. Itu ngapain tuh tahun 91?
Why did I come here?
Yeah.
Because I was actually supposed to be here for 2 weeks. I was a backpacker. So,
you know, that's the thing about white people that I get from English
that's
teachers.
racist. You can't say white people.
Then what do I say?
Westerners.
No, white people is a lot funnier. Here's the thing. Every time I ask a colleague of mine, a white guy teacher, every time, how long have you been here? That's the wrong question. The right question is how long you're supposed to be here.
Yeah, it's true. It's a common story.
It's a
People
very
fall in love with Indonesia.
Oh, really? Because
do?
it's cheap?
No, because the girls are good looking.
Really? You mean they're affordable?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Bangsat. Oke, jadi tahun 91 tuh ngapain? Backpacking, terus visanya hilang apa gimana?
No, do you want me bahasa Indonesia or English?
Campur-campur aja.
Okay.
Ya, jadi biar aneh gitu. Lagian kalau kita full English, kasihan ini tukang subtitle kita.
Okay. Waktu itu saya ada teman di sini.
Aduh, aneh banget.
Dia baru datang dari Cina. Dia memang orang DJ.
DJ, oke.
Saya mau ke Cina ikut ke sana sama dia untuk main-main saja 2 minggu. Tapi dia bilang di Cina tidak begitu enak di sana karena ada terlalu banyak politik. Orang Cina semua jelek.
Iya, emang jelek semua Cina.
Jadi sesudah itu dia transfer dari Shanghai ke Jakarta. Dan dia langsung waktu itu dia kirim surat. Tidak ada email, tidak ada HP, tidak ada apa saja. Dia kirim surat yang merah biru itu masih pernah lihat? No, airmail.
Airmail, oke.
Airmail.
I know airmail.
Dia tulis di sana hanya harus ke sini, enak di sana, enak banget di sini. Jadi saya datang mungkin 2-3 bulan kemudian saya datang ke sini. Dan sesudah 3 hari saya bilang saya tidak pernah mau pergi dari Indonesia lagi. Waktu itu Indonesia memang beda kan.
Yeah.
Waktu itu lebih untuk orang asing lebih bebas, lebih gampang tinggal di sini. Sekarang ini jauh lebih susah. Kalau mau bikin bisnis di sini, mau dapat visa semuanya sekarang jauh lebih susah. Tapi waktu itu gampang sekali.
Okay, so you came in 91. 10 years later, Jakarta Comedy Club.
10 years
Tell
later.
me the story.
I went to, in November of 2000, I went to a Jakarta cricket club dinner.
Jakarta apa?
Cricket club.
Cricket game ini?
Cricket.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's baseball. Cricket.
Oh, okay.
Cricket. Indians. My friend Sachin, who you know, he invited me. He was big in the Jakarta cricket club.
Oh, so you know Sachin since 2000?
I've known Sachin for a long time. Right. And the after-dinner speaker, the special guest for that dinner was Sir Richard Hadley, the cricketer.
Okay.
In New Zealand, from New Zealand. And he gave a speech after the dinner, which was just so funny. I mean, everyone was laughing, rolling about. People were falling off their chairs laughing. I mean, it was so funny. All cricket anecdotes and jokes. And he was very good at it. He was really funny. And after the dinner, everyone was saying, well, we could do with a lot more nights like that. You know, a good laugh. There's no comedy in Indonesia. And I said, what do you mean there's no comedy in Indonesia?
Where was that?
That was in the Mercantile Athletic Club.
Okay,
Jakarta. Wherever that is. Yeah, it's in Jakarta.
Okay.
The dinner was in Jakarta.
Okay, that's interesting.
And everybody said, well, there's no such thing as comedy like we have in the West. So I did a bit of research, and sure enough, everyone said, no, there's no stand-up comedy in Indonesia. There's comedy.
There's comedy.
There's the puppet shows and the wayang kulit and all that. There's the traditional comedy, but there's no stand-up comedy in the sense of someone standing up at a microphone, just talking and making people laugh. So I thought, well, that seems to be a bit of a gap in the market. So I got hold of a friend of mine. At that time, I was a music promoter. I'd done a lot of music shows. the has-been circuit, you know, like Kool and the Gang and Shack Attack and people like that. Probably you haven't heard of them, probably.
No idea.
They're very old bands, but they were sort of used to be famous then.
Yeah.
So they were old bands. But there's a good circuit for that among older people. They like to see the bands from their youth. So I used to do that here in the Philippines, and I thought, let's see if the agents I use in the UK can supply comedians. So a friend of mine, Ian Carlis, he knew some other agents in the UK, and we got hold of a guy called Mike Lee, who said, sure, we can send you comedians. So 6 months later, in April of 2001, we did our first show with Jason Byrne, who's now huge, and Jack Russell. His real name's John Cowley. Unfortunately, he's died since then. That's how long I've been doing comedy. Our first opener, the first guy who ever stood up on stage in Indonesia as a stand-up comedian, the opener for the headliner, is since died. So that shows you how long ago it was.
Is what? Sorry?
He's died.
Okay.
Yeah, he's dead.
Jack Russell.
John Cowley, R.I.P. John. He was a good guy, very funny comedian. I got the whole thing on tape actually, and I've watched it since. He's a very good comedian. And then we did shows monthly after that. We had Ross Noble, who's also huge. He wasn't then, but now he's a huge name.
So you've been contacting agents from the UK?
At that time, only from the UK, yeah.
Only from UK?
Yeah. Since then, we've worked with Americans and Australians and so on. But that time it was mostly UK comedians, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, then of course 9/11 happened in September of 2001. So that kind of made things difficult for a while. The comedians didn't want to come. Well, they didn't want to come here. You know, they were all scared. Biggest Muslim country in the world. There's a Muslim terrorist attack, and so
the tension was high.
It was very high. So we stopped for a few months just to let things settle down. And then in February of 2002, we started again at the Mandarin Hotel. This was all at the Mandarin.
Mandarin Oriental.
Yeah.
In Jakarta.
In Jakarta, yeah. So then in February of the following year, 2002, we started again on the rooftop.
Every time you say we, who do you mean by we?
At that time, it was me and a guy called Ian Carter. He left a few years later, he left to go to the Middle East, so I carried on my own. But at that time, it was we. Actually, there's been a few people join me along the way, you know, business partners along the way, but the last 6, 7, 8 years, it's just been me.
And the market keeps growing for you?
Actually, really. No, not for the foreigners, of course. It's become more difficult over recent years. Mainly because the oil price tanked, you know, a few years ago, and a lot of the expats here were involved with.
Most of the expats are involved with oil. Every time I ask the expats in the American club, your friends, they'll be like, "Yeah, I work in oil." But every time I talk to some weird guy, some weird white guy around my neighborhood, what do you do? I'm an English teacher.
English teacher. Yeah, it's true. You see the one end of the other. They're getting paid 25 grand a week. We're down here getting 25 grand a year. A month. Yeah, it's true. But those English teachers, generally, they're people like me who came here and wanted to stay, and that's just the easiest thing to do, because you can.
There's literally nothing to do. I don't know what to do.
You just teach. Well, just speaking, right? It's just when you teach English, so anyone can do it.
Yeah, especially towards Chinese parents. Like they absolutely love seeing their kids playing with white people.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
Really?
There was this really weird policy in 2015 that I don't know if you know this or not, but there was this policy in 2015 that made it harder for expats to work here.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
That's what I was talking about.
That's what you're talking
about. So
it was 2015. So what happened was, in areas where there were a lot of Chinese, they lost like more than 50% of the students.
Yeah.
Because they don't want their teachers to be Chinese looking like myself. They want the whiteys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they think that a native speaker is going to be better at it, and of course that's a reasonable assumption. You imagine that someone's native speaker would be. I wouldn't try to speak to teach Indonesian. I speak reasonable Indonesian, but I wouldn't try to teach it.
Okay, enough the racist talk. Let's back to the comedy scene. And you've been to Edinburgh Festival several times.
Yeah.
That was before the span before we met and such. Now, to make it more how do I say it, relatable to the audience that are watching, I'd like to talk about a figure, about a guy, Ramon Papana. How did you got involved with him?
We
My side of the by the guys, but I would like to hear about yours. When did you meet him and stuff?
Well, simply in 2012 we did the first Jakarta International Comedy Festival. And
have you traveled abroad with him before?
No.
Okay.
No. We only met Ramon because we needed an interface with the stand-up comedy scene in Indonesia, because we wanted to bring a lot of during the festival. Obviously, we wanted to use a lot of Indonesian comedians too. At that time, they weren't doing much English. In 2012, there wasn't much going on in the English scene, so it was all Indonesian. So I didn't really know. Like now, I know all the good guys. I know, right, the Indonesians. But at that time, we didn't have a connection with the Indonesian scene, and we wanted to do a lot of Indonesian comedy at the festival as well. So somebody, I forget who it was.
I remember 2012, there was Emo Phillips.
Emo Phillips, we had a great crew.
Paul Ogata,
Tom Rhodes, Glenn Wool, Nickel.
It's close. That was sick.
It was.
But correct me if I'm wrong, the show kind of tanked.
The festival it was too soon.
Indonesia wasn't ready.
Jakarta wasn't
ready. That
lineup
is insane, man.
It was, man. We did an all-star show on the end of the festival. It was only 4 days. I mean, festival sounds like a long time, but it was only 4 days.
So you were heavily involved in Jakarta, the first Jakarta Comedy Festival.
I arranged it, yeah.
You arranged it, okay.
Lippo paid for it, and I organized
Lippo paid for it. So it was way before, in Indonesia we have Stand Up Fest.
You didn't have anything.
You didn't have anything, yeah.
There was no such thing. But yeah, the last night we did an all-star show, and all of the comedians we just named, plus the others, all performed on the same stage, one after the other. I mean, you'll never see a show like that as long as you live. It was just incredible, amazing show, and people are still talking about it. You know, it was invited people only. It was in the Fez Dungeon, the downstairs there.
The what Fez Dungeon?
Dungeon, yeah, it's a bar. It's in a cellar.
Okay.
And they got a stage for a live band, so we put everybody on there. On the first night of the festival, before the festival started, everybody had arrived. Bill Bailey was the headliner, as you probably know, and Phil Nickel, who are also very good musicians. And I had a band, I still have a band, I was in a band at the time, so my band played as well for the welcome party when everybody arrived in Indonesia for the festival. And Bill Bailey is, I hope some of your viewers know, is a very accomplished musician as well as being a great comedian. And his wife said, don't ask him to get up on the stage with the band, just let it be, and if he wants to get up, he'll get up. 2 songs in, he was on the stage and jamming with us. It was just the most amazing night. Phil Nickel playing guitar and singing, Bill Bailey playing guitar and singing, my band backing him up. It was just incredible, amazing.
In 2012, the first Indonesian comedian that performed in Jakarta Comedy Club was Dana Pandawa.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who else?
Who else was there?
And how did you get in touch with Dana?
Dana was already coming to the...
he was coming
He
by
was coming
himself.
to the show, yeah.
Okay.
Coming to the shows. And he was one of the first to try and to sort of stand up and do English with us. You know, he was one of the first ones. Him and Asep and Asep Swaji and a couple of others.
You see, it's one of the weirdest things to see Asep did, because 2012, it was 2012, right?
2012, yeah.
2012. 2011, Asep was a powerhouse name in Suci. Like, he was so loved by everyone.
Oh, yeah.
He was extremely
He's
loved.
probably one of the most lovable characters on the stage you'll ever see.
So it was a bit weird for me that how did you get involved in that, because he already had many gigs after that.
He just loved to come and perform. Well, in English. He used to come and do his English set with us, obviously. And we didn't do any Indonesian
still does
shows.
the same joke.
It's true. But, you know, in normal comedy clubs in the UK and in America, the comedians have a set. And they work that set for a year, you know, or more sometimes. Because they're moving around. There's so many comedy clubs that the audience changes. Right? But here, you haven't got that. We got more or less the same audience every time.
So if you use
so you don't get the chance to use the same material. So it's a big expectation. It's a lot to ask from any comedian to come up with new jokes every month. You know, you can't do that. So I don't blame the guys when they say, oh, I don't know what to do. They've heard all my jokes before. Just do them again. It's your greatest hits, The jokes have to be told, right? People remember them, but they'll laugh again if you tell it right. You don't have to be new material all the time. It's better if you get new material. But
dan sebenarnya biasa kayak gitu kalau di luar ya.
Yeah, biasanya audiensnya yang ganti. You don't change your set.
When Jim Jeffries came, I've heard him done jokes that he's done like 5-7 years ago. Like it's very common.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, Iman. Apa bedanya stand up comedy orang Indonesia dan stand up comedy orang non English speakers maksudnya?
Yeah, it's about sense of humor. See, the Indonesian is changing now. It's getting more sophisticated. I mean, the jokes you're telling, some of the concepts that you use are quite sophisticated and Western. You have a premise and the punchline and all the rest of it. But in the early days, there's a few who use a lot of pun. Plays on words is a big favourite. There's a few who basically did nothing but that. And there's also, how do I say this delicately? It's not as wrong here as it is in the West, so it's not an offence here, but there tends to be a lot more sexism here when Indonesian comedians do comedy than there is. You can't stand up in a club in London and say to a white audience, oh, my wife, she spends all my money. I mean, a woman will come out of the audience and kill you. I mean, you can't say that.
Kalau di sini itu tahun 2012, 2011, 12, 13, pas awal-awal kita booming, dua premis stand up yang paling disukai orang itu cewek tuh nyebelin, sama gue ini jomblo ya.
Yeah.
If you say gue ini jomblo ya, people oh jomblo gini, masa jomblo, something like that.
Yeah, that's like, Asep's thing.
That's Asep's thing. Yeah. Until now.
Until now. And Dana. I mean, Dana does the same thing. I'm not married, I don't have a girlfriend, and he uses that as kind of his, and that's not a bad thing because that creates empathy in the audience. They feel, they feel for you, and it's, it creates that connection. The audience has to have feeling for the comedian in some way. They have to like you, number one, which is why Asep does so well, because he's so likable. And Dana too, he's extremely likable. He gets on stage, he's just a likable guy. So the material doesn't need to be so strong if you're likable. Of course, the ultimate situation is the material is really strong and you're likable, and then that's the perfect situation. But being likable will carry mediocre jokes. But fantastic jokes won't carry somebody that they don't like. Because
the audience is basically a reflection of your hormones. If you're nervous, they can feel it.
They can feel it. People don't laugh at people they don't like. That's just it. If you come on stage and they don't like you, they're not. Whatever you say, they're not going to laugh because they don't like you. So the first thing the best comedians do in the first 2 minutes is two things. One, convince them that you're the funny guy, and you'll let them know what's funny. They won't let you know what's funny. You'll tell them what's funny. And number two, make them like you, create an empathy. There's a connection, some kind of emotional connection, and then it's much easier for you. It's for you, not for them. It makes your life so much easier.
Tapi Iman, would you call me and Mo and the guys? We will call you a promoter. Jadi sejak kapan? If you want to answer this, okay. If you don't want to answer, it's fine. How long have you monetized the comedy scene? Have you been able to monetize? Not really? No. Agak susah ya.
I'm happy if it pays for it. If it doesn't cost me anything, then I'm happy.
Yang penting break even.
Until now. I mean, like the festival we did last year. No, not last year, year before.
Jicom Fest.
Jicom Fest. We made money from that.
You made money, okay.
And Jim Jeffries made money from. The festival I made money from because Lippo paid me to do it. But the monthly shows.
Yang kita ini di American Club.
Yeah, I mean,
apalagi sekarang.
Nothing for the last year, but 1 month you get 150 people. Well, you're not supposed to do that many, but 110 people is full, and that's great revenue. But the next month, as you've seen, you've got 20. You make money 1 month, but then you spend it all the next month. So it's it's just up and down. If I looked at it, probably if I took the average from the beginning, there's probably a small profit in there, but nothing that's going to means I can do it 24/7, as a full-time job.
Jadi to put it in context, Iman sudah dari tahun 2001 sudah ngadain acara bulanan, setahun bisa 10 kali ya, 10 kali bisa.
Sekitar itu ya. Kecuali waktu ada 9/11 dan juga Bali Bombs. Waktu itu kita henti.
Dalam setahun paling sedikit berapa kali? 6, 5?
Iya.
Paling sedikit setahun tuh 6 show. Jadi tiap bulan, tiap tahun itu kita 2 bulan sekali,
biasanya
1 bulan sekali.
10 ya.
Ya biasa 6 sampai 10 show. Jadi Iman ngundang stand up comedian dari luar negeri, perform di Jakarta, lalu stand up comedian itu nanti perform di somewhere in Asia again. Me and the guys sometimes kita jadi opening act just for the free beer.
Dalam bahasa Inggris. Yeah, because it's expensive. You know, in
fun,
London, if you do a comedy show in London, it's like me doing a show with you here.
Yeah.
You know, you get on a Gojek, you're here. You don't need a hotel, you don't need a visa, you don't need anything. But when I bring a comedian from the UK, you got $1,000 flight. You got $100 a night for hotels. You got $500 for visa. And all the entertainment expenses. They have to have a working visa.
Working visa ya jatuhnya.
30 days working
because
visa.
they're getting paid. Okay.
Yeah, 30 days working, even if they're not getting paid.
Even if they're not getting paid.
They do get paid, and plus their fees, of course. So, but I mean, they do. Even if you're getting paid, and this is a mistake a lot of people make. They think if you don't get paid for what you do in Indonesia, you don't need a work permit. It doesn't count as work.
Okay.
That's not true. It's not allowed to do work paid or unpaid on a business visa or on a. It doesn't matter if you get paid or not. If you're working, you need a visa.
So first you call Jakarta Comedy Club, terus diganti jadi Mad About Comedy.
Yeah.
Sejak kapan tuh ya kan? Baru-baru 2016 ya?
5 tahun ya.
5 tahun lalu ya?
4 tahun. 4 tahun.
4 tahun. Why? Lebih
because I wanted
aja.
a brand. You can't build a brand around Jakarta Comedy Club because then you go to Bali and it's Bali Comedy Club. Then you go to Singapore, Singapore Comedy Club. So you do Mad About Comedy Jakarta, Mad About Comedy Bali, Mad About Comedy Singapore, Mad About Comedy Bangkok. That's why, so we could build an international brand. And
who came up with the idea of Ketawa Comedy Club? Because you are technically the co-founder.
Yeah, Mo and I own it, yeah. Well, we always wanted to do it. Mo and I talked about it for many years. But then we agreed before the festival in 2019, we agreed that if we made money from that, we would use that money to set up a club together. So we didn't take any money for ourselves. We just put all the money we made from that into opening Ketawa. There was talk, and we talked about calling it Mad About Comedy Jakarta, the club. But it's mostly Indonesian. Yeah, it's kurang Indonesian. So Ketawa was much better because most of the shows are in Indonesian, as you know. So we've done a few English shows there, but not many.
Dan Ketawa waktu itu sudah bikin 5 show per minggu.
Yeah.
It was
sebelum
insane.
COVID ya.
Iya, sayang banget ya.
Sayang sekali ya.
What was the idea, just to make shows or like comedy clubs in the US? Like they just want to make comedy shows where people will come and they don't care who is on stage and they just pay. Is that the goal?
Yeah, that's the difference. In most comedy clubs, purpose-built buildings that are called a comedy club, not comedy shows, comedy clubs.
Yeah.
People go there regardless. Like in what's it called in Leicester Square? I'll come to you in a minute. They go there, like you say, they don't know who's on. They just say, let's go and see the comedy tonight. Let's go to the comedy tonight. So they'll go out and they'll buy a ticket, and whoever is on is on. Okay. I mean, with a few exceptions. Some people will see, this guy's on at this comedy club, and they'll go for that reason. But mostly they just go for comedy. So the idea here, excuse me, the idea here was that. But the problem was there's not that many names that people will buy a ticket to come and see. Okay. Banji, and, those sorts of guys, Ernest Perkasa and Mo as well, and more. But that's it. You got 4, and you can't do that once a week, So what we do is, Mo's very clever. He started doing regional shows, dialect shows. So we'd have Sunda language shows and Sundanese, and shows in other language, Javanese, and so on. So that attracted all those people who live in Jakarta. It's like a foreign show for them. Yeah. Something from home, So that was a very smart move.
Yeah. Unyang anjing namanya.
Yeah, exactly.
Sunda, Cacok Jawa.
But then it got better and better because there's more and more Indonesian comedians who are really good. I mean, like one of them sat there. They're getting better and better, and but they fit. And the Indonesian market is getting more sophisticated. It's not just it used to be comedy on TV in Indonesia. Used to be a gay guy with a buck teeth got
Yeah,
kicked
yeah,
in the
yeah.
balls a lot. That was basically.
Dulu tuh kita nggak punya referensi komedi soalnya. Jadi dulu orang tuh juga nonton stand up ya karena pingin tahu stand up tuh gimana. Sekarang tuh orang pingin nonton orangnya, sosoknya. Udah tahu ini siapa, pokoknya mau itu doang.
Iya. Tapi sekarang mereka pernah lihat YouTube itu yang semuanya sudah ganti karena YouTube.
Iya.
Sama internet. Orang biasa bisa lihat semuanya walaupun tidak tahu sebelum ini stand up comedy apa ya, searching aja lihat dia lucu memang siapa namanya, Google dia mau main di mana nanti bisa ikut beli tiket ikut ke show-nya.
Dan ada sorry Jom, lompat balik lagi gini, would you say that you inspired Ramon Papana because he wrote your name in his book?
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't want to say anything. I mean, I don't want to say anything out of school about anyone. But
99%, I will say 95%. Stand up Indo, the komunitas, absolutely despise the guy.
Well, I've heard stories, obviously, and Ramon did a good job for us at the festival. That's all I can say.
Gitu ya. Oh, beda dengan kata-kata orang, banyak rumor aneh-aneh orang Indonesia itu cepet gitu kalau nyebar rumor. Ramon tuh sembarangan bikin festival, ya itu kan memang acara dibayar, disuruh bikin, ya mau gimana?
Yeah, no comment.
Gak seru nih, Bule. Oke, jadi Iman, I'm going to recap the things that you've told me like since years ago, and I'm pretending to ask you now.
You're just testing me to see if I'm telling the truth, right?
Jadi Iman sudah bikin comedy club di Jakarta, di Indonesia dari 2001.
Bali juga.
Di Bali juga. Nah, jadi ada, gue harus meluruskan beberapa perspektif. Mulai dari tahun 2011. Stand Up Indo itu komunitas, foundernya ya 5 orang tuh, Raditya Dika, Panji, Ernest Isman, siapa lagi? Ernest, siapa lagi sih? Rian, siapa lagi? Satu lagi? Ko Ernest. Tadi never mind. Jadi ada komunitas Stand Up Indo nih, ditemuin 5 orang, founder. Komunitas, nah stand up comedy Indonesia itu ditemukan Ramon Papana. Dia yang ngeset comedy club pertama gitu. Jadi dia sudah ngerti konsepnya di mana semua orang masih asing. Sementara ini mbahnya. Jadi tetap aja kita dikuasai Bule ya. Dia yang pertama menemukan stand up comedy di Indonesia dari tahun 2001 dan jauh 10 tahun sebelum komunitas stand up Indo itu sendiri. Nah, Iman sudah ngadain show rutin bulanan dari tahun 2001 sampai sekarang, 20 years.
Kecuali COVID.
Iman juga sudah banyak mengundang powerhouse comedian dari luar negeri ke Indonesia dan dia sangat membuka peluang untuk kita yang mau coba stand up comedy dalam bahasa Inggris. Karena sebenarnya Iman, stand up dalam bahasa Inggris tuh grammar is not that a big thing, right?
No, swearing's more important.
Swearing. Yang penting bisa ngomong fuck you motherfucker, itu udah bisa untuk stand up bahasa Inggris.
The guys in the early days, I mean, Dana and Asep and all the guys who started doing it early, and you, I think I've told you this, don't try to sound like an English comedian.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because then you put yourself in the same pond with them,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
very good, and they've been doing it a long time. So you're not gonna, your uniqueness, what you can use as your accent, your slightly wrong grammar, maybe slightly wrong pronunciation. You can use that. No, tidak apa-apa. Just carry on. It's like if I worry what I sound like when I speak Indonesian, I don't know if I sound like a Frenchman. I don't know if I sound like a German. You know, to the English ear, to my ears, a German sounds very harsh. A Frenchman sounds very soft, and but I don't know what I sound like in when I speak Indonesian to you. Is it keras? Is it?
Menurutku
good?
biasa aja, nggak apa-apa.
It doesn't matter. Just do it.
Iya.
And it becomes your thing.
I agree 100% with you because that's the thing about Indonesian. Kalau kita ngomong bahasa Inggris dan salah, nggak apa-apa. Orang bule tuh biasa aja ngelihatnya. Yang masalah kalau kita salah ngomong bahasa Inggris itu anak-anak jaksel pretentious. Song jaksel. Terus tadi apa lagi? Oh ya, Iman, sebelum kita close sessionnya, you've invited like hundreds of comedians to perform in Jakarta. I would like you to name your top 3 favorite comedians that you have invited to Jakarta, and why? Which year, whoever, up to you.
My memory for the years. It's difficult to say the years because many of them have been back more than once. So
okay. It's okay.
Years. But I'll leave out Jim Jeffries and Bill Bailey and Maz Jobrani and Yumi Nagashima, the big,
and Gina Yashere,
because they're the
nama-nama besar, yeah.
Yeah, they're the big names. Among the regular, what I would call like the people who do comedy for a living, like as if they were a plumber, or an electrician. They just do it. I call them circuit pros.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Rather than stars. So of the circuit pros, I don't want to leave anybody out because comedy, and you'll notice something. And this is important. I've never done a competition in all the years that you've known me, right? Have you ever known this? There's never been a competition from me, and I never will do one because comedy, to me, is subjective. Comedy, it's about the night, the chemistry, the audience, what mood the comedian's in. There's a lot of different factors that can affect how funny you are or how funny you're perceived to be by the audience, right? And it's not fair, in my opinion, to take comedians, charge people tickets to get in, take the money, and then have you come up, and the only thing you get for it is a worthless trophy that says you won the Jakarta Comedy Club competition in 2021. So I refuse to do competitions for that reason. So I'm reluctant to name top 3 because my favourite comedian is the one that's making me laugh right now.
Okay.
So that can be, on the night when I'm falling off my chair laughing at that guy, he's my favourite comedian.
Okay.
The following week, the following month,
could be another guy.
It could be another guy. So I think it's really unfair to say who's the best comedian.
No, just your personal favorite.
I don't have favourite comedians.
Okay.
I have a lot of people who I think are very funny, and I love them all. But people, there's a few who've become very close to me, become close friends over the years, who are very funny. So there's three or four people who I'd say I would call my good friends from the times they've come here. I've got to know them through comedy. But to name, if I said names now, I'd leave and regret it later because I didn't mention somebody else. So just
it's okay.
The person who's making me laugh right now is my favorite comedian.
Tickle. Okay. Jadi Iman nggak mau nyebut karena dia fair. Menurut dia stand up comedy itu subjektif ya. Bisa
subjektif.
Bisa ke left out karena semua stand up comedian itu punya masanya sendiri, punya momennya sendiri, and it's okay. Tapi gue kalau gitu akan nyebutin beberapa powerhouse yang sudah pernah diundang. Jim Jeffries, Maz Jobrani, siapa lagi? Tadi siapa?
Bill Bailey, Yumi Nagashima,
Gina Yashere. Oh my god, I fucking love Gina Yashere.
She's doing very well now.
Siapa itu yang di Malaysia yang botak tuh?
Harith Iskandar.
He's been here.
Harith?
Yeah,
several times.
Oh, okay, Harith Iskandar. Oh, the other bald guy. Harith Iskandar.
Oh, you mean the Canadian? You mean Brian Aylward?
No, Malaysian. Yeah. He's what's his name again?
Kevin J.
Huh?
Kevin J?
Bukan Kevin J. Another Malaysian guy. He talk like this lah. He makes fun of Singaporeans.
They all do that.
Yeah, they all do that. I'm sorry for the last one. I forgot who you are.
Bold from KL.
Yeah, Bald KL. He was on the 17th
anniversary.
17th anniversary.
God, who was that?
Fakafaz. Jadi udah banyak powerhouse name dari luar negeri yang udah diundang Iman ke sini. Iman, how do we keep in touch with Matt about comedy supaya kita bisa tahu?
The easiest way is the website mac.lol. Mac.lol.
Mac.lol.
Email info@mac.lol. We've got Mad About Comedy Instagram, and find us on Facebook, Mad About Comedy.
Facebook juga ada, di Ketawa Comedy Club Instagram pasti diupdate juga.
Yeah, Ketawa Comedy Club and Mad About Comedy are international is Mad About Comedy, local is Ketawa. That's basically where it divides.
All right.
Always. But.
Okay, thank you very much for being here, Iman.
My pleasure, Ben.
I hope Indonesians learn more about the actual English circuit. Thank you for
dukung komedi Indonesia ya.
Dukung komedi Indonesia. Oke, sampai jumpa di episode Yolis Band berikutnya. Dadah.